What it is, y'all? It's your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back with another Dragon Ball Daima review. We have episode 7 on the books now, and once again, it's another, I don't want to call it a slow-moving episode. There was a lot of lead-up, and by the time this episode ended, I was really ready for more, but you know, the more I thought about it, the more I really pondered this, it does kind of harken back to a day when anime was a little slower paced. Maybe I'm just spoiled by modern anime, which does move significantly faster. It's you know, I really did have to go back and like linger on some of the old series I used to watch and things like that. You know, things more from like Toriyama's time. And so maybe I might have been a bit harsh about the timeline. We are only 7 episodes in, and if you consider that there were hundreds of episodes in both Dragon Ball and Z, well, what? There were a lot of episodes of Dragon Ball, but hundreds of episodes of Z. I guess considering that, I might have been a little harsh about the timing and all that. But nevertheless, we are about to get into it with episode 8, which is going to be really, really fun. It was a little bit of a tease for me because I really did want that ending, that whole thing that's coming in episode 8 in this episode. But I you know what? It's not a bad thing necessarily that it leaves us wanting more. That actually is, you know, genuinely a sign of a good show. So before I get too deep into the review portion of this, let's talk about rankings because this is another point where the anime is on point. 9. I'm going to say a 9 out of 10. Very good animation. It is a little more simplistic style, though I haven't noticed too many people really like harping on about that. It's a very Toriyama style, and I'm not going to knock it for being stylistically a little more old school in some states. What I would definitely, and in some of the other anime reviews I've done on my other channel, what I would definitely caution is old school techniques. You know, when the action picks up, if they're still, you know, animating on the 2s or even 3s sometimes, as I've seen even in one recent series that I love the series, but I want so much more out of it sometimes. So I don't see that here, though. Granted, we haven't gotten into like a lot of action sequences, but there was some action this episode. By and large, animation, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm also going to give the sound a 9 out of 10. But the story, I'm going to give a 7. And I know that's probably a bit harsh, but I am left wanting more. And I don't want to say I feel unsatisfied, because we did get a lot more story with this. It is a very story-driven series. And that's not necessarily to its lacking. I just feel like the pace could be brought up a little bit more. And I am sure I'm not the only one out there who feels that way. I do feel like it is a very slow-moving series. Despite the fact I understand why that is the case, I am still going to dock points in the story department for that. So 9 out of 10 animation, 9 out of 10 sound. But when it comes to story, I'm just definitely left wanting. But let's talk about the story, because there are a few things that we did learn. So first things first, when we kick this episode off, we know that Bulma's trying to fix the ship, and then she finds out that there's literally an item that they cannot source from Earth. It is an element that they do not have on Earth that they have to get from the demon realm. But High Beast shows up, and you know, we already know this guy was sent there to pick up Bulma and Vegeta and Piccolo, and they're actually pretty much on their way now. Like, they're en route. In fact, there's a point at which Goku and crew are talking about, or basically, Kaioshin is like, shouldn't we wait for them if they're on their way? Because Pansy finds out they're actually en route, because she's been in contact, or she gets in contact with her people who've been in contact with High Beast. And nevertheless, these guys, they're like, shouldn't we wait for them? Goku's like, nah, I want to go fight. Typical Goku, right? Like, no, there's a fight on hand, and I love some of this. Oh, I love when we get there. It's so funny. But he wants to fast track that, right? Now, that's a little bit later in the episode. there is some kind of showdown in the build up to this, and there's a lot of classic Goku stuff that happens. I'm going to skip over One Piece so I can kind of talk about it a little bit later. But Hybeast mentions that he wants to get everyone there. He's in a hurry because he wants to go to the beauty parlor, which I thought was hilarious. Just a great touch. But the main kind of tension of the episode, the one thing that like kind of commands the vast majority of the episode, is Pansy notices when they're flying that the basically the Marines, more or less, the patrol or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, that police, the Gendarmerie or whatever, they're actually in the vicinity, and she mentions that they need to hide, more or less, but they're immediately ambushed and forced to the ground. And at first, and I love this. This just shows Kaioshin's smarts. Is he basically gets everyone off the plane, and the Marines are basically ransacking the plane and just throwing everything out. And at first, Pansy's like, "How did they not catch Goku?" And even I was like, "This is." And I actually really like, and I gave extra points to the story because of the way they did this. They mentioned that Goku knows the what the English dub is instant transmission. And he basically uses that to teleport himself out of the plane to Kaioshin, and they're able to basically hide Goku. And I thought that was really smart, and it's use of a technique that we've seen, but we haven't seen in quite a bit of time. So it's a real wise use of the techniques and things like that Goku does that are used in a more fun way than just traveling to, King Kai's planet or whatever. So I really did enjoy that portion of it. And of course, they wind up basically harassing the whole crew. And then they happen to go to Pansy because she's got this collar on. And they're like, "You got to come with us." And she even mentions, she's like, all the people in the third demon realm, they have this collar. And it's actually made by Kaioshin's people, the Gleans. And the Glens apparently use some kind of, I don't want to call it magic or whatever, but essentially they use the special materials to make this that actually grow with you. So as you grow, the collar grows. But basically, they're able to scan the collar and tell where all these people are at. It's basically just a way to keep tabs on everybody. And even Pansy, who we already know is royalty in this area, has that collar and is kind of subjected to that. So it leads basically to a tussle, and one thing I really did love about this episode is one thing we have not really seen since the tournament on Earth is the Kaioshin. Like, he's adept at fighting. We haven't seen him fight, and really seriously at all since then. And this is the first instance where he's just like, "Nope, combat time. We got to go." And we get some great shots of him in combat actually fighting these guys. And basically he fights them off, and he's like, "Goku, it's your turn." And Goku launches a ki blast and just knocks the plane into next Tuesday. And I thought the whole thing was absolutely fantastic. It was a great way to overcome this. Even Glorio gets in the action where he gets to use his little, purple lightning technique. But what's really interesting is Pansy and Kaioshin get talking about that collar, and Kaioshin is just able to just break it. Now, I know he's used this technique before. I cannot for the life of me remember where it's from. I'm sure someone in the comments can remember. I know he's used this technique, or we've heard this technique before, but at the moment it escapes me. Basically, he's just able to make it more or less crumble. And I think it's actually a key-based attack that he actually does, if I recollect how it works. I'd honestly have to go look it up. This is just me, instant reacting after just watching the episode and on the hype from it. Now, Pansy's ecstatic. She's like, "The collar's off. This is great." And more or less, they kind of, she's excited. She's like, "You got to teach everyone this. We need to, liberate the whole third demon realm," which may or may not be good, but we'll see. So they get on the plane, they get on their way, and this is when they find they're going to basically fight the what do they call this? The I forget what the name of them are. The Tama. Yeah. Anyway, the dudes that have the Dragon Balls. There's the 3 Dragon Balls, and legitimately they're the guardians of it. In fact, when they finally meet it, they're like, oh, it's in his chest. Like, yeah, you have to defeat this thing in order to get the Dragon Ball. And so Goku's like, all right, but before this is what I love about Goku. He's like, we got to eat. I smelled something delicious, and we got to eat. And so they're confronting the Tamagami. That's the thing's name. The Tamagami, they're confronting this thing. And then Goku's like, yeah, but we got to go over here. So they go grab like a meal. And this is great because it's actually a callback to something that happened earlier in the episode. There were these little like fritters, more or less, that Pansy brought along. And she's like, one of those is like 2 solid meals. If you remember back to when the Senzu beans were a thing in Dragon Ball, initially the whole idea of the Senzu bean, it was enough. One little bean was enough food to sustain you for like 7 days. They weren't magic healing beans at the time. It was just food initially. That eventually did get changed. But Goku's belly is literally swelling up from actually eating like 2 or 3 of these things. And I thought it was hilarious. And Pansy's like, are you good? And he's just like, I'll be good in a minute. Just Goku's infinite gut. But nevertheless, after the battle, they're even having like an interaction with some of the locals, and they're talking about they're gonna go fight the Tamagami, and the dude's like, I haven't seen anybody fight that thing in 20 years. Is this kid gonna be all right? Does he know what he's getting into? I bet not. And legitimately, they get up to the Tamagami. This thing yells at them, which was great, and Goku challenges it to a fight. And I was ready. And we gotta wait till the next episode. But it's not a bad thing. So the next episode you can expect is going to be an action-packed episode. Now, I'm sure the beginning of the episode, we're probably going to get more of Vegeta, Bulma, and Piccolo on their way. I'm sure Vegeta's going to be absolutely mad and just irate that Goku fought this without him. But it'll be interesting to see. Based on the preview, it looks like Goku's really kind of back to his old Dragon Ball habits of just fighting like a goofy weirdo. And I love it. I'm here for it. I actually am all about that. So, episode 8 looks like it is going to be a ton of fun. So make sure you guys are here for it. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be back with more Dragon Ball Daima and some Dokkan Battle coming up here real quick.